Yeah, so I'm super happy that we have Riad Aboulteif here today um, as a speaker in our session called Food as a Tool to Fight the Crisis in Lebanon at the moment. I think I would just give the floor to you already, Riad, to introduce yourself a bit, if you like, and then we can take it from there. You are muted.
Hello. First off, I would like to grasp this opportunity to thank holytisch and to thank you, in particular, Joella. Thanks, Charlotte, and for giving me this chance and the trust and confidence to talk about the crisis and the challenges when it comes to the food industry in Lebanon, in particular. And I'm super excited. I've been preparing for some time for this. The main aim is just to portray and to draw an image of the current situation in our homeland in Beirut and Lebanon in particular. So quickly, as an introduction, my name is Riad Aboulteif. By trade and by education, I'm not a chef, I'm an architect. I studied architecture in Lebanon, and quite after 10 to 11 years, I have been bitten by the food and beverage and the hospitality bug, and I fell in love with it and changed my profession and kept this love for the food and beverage ever since. The topic in general is a very sensitive and emotional topic to me in particular and to us Lebanese in general. Lebanon, pretty much like any other country, is a beautiful country. Like Italy is beautiful, like Greece is beautiful, like the States is beautiful, like India is beautiful, like China, like any other country, it's beautiful. When I talk about my Lebanon, in my eyes, in the way I see it as the most beautiful country in the world because I'm seeing it from my perspective. So the love of our country, the love of our Lebanon has been dragging ever since our childhood. Lebanon has a unique position in the Middle East because of its strategic allocation. And this geographic allocation and strategic allocation has been a good omen to it, and sometimes it was a bad omen and did not relieve the country from the struggles on the social economical levels and the geographical and political levels. Lebanon has also a very quite dynamic climate variety. It's an extremely green country that has 4 seasons, which will give it an advantage to have different various sources of production, in particular on the agricultural part. So one cannot start talking about the crisis without going quickly into the historical path, because the incidents that we are living nowadays has definitely had a profound impact historically. So we basically are carrying the luggage of our own history. To be precise and to be more profound in what I'm trying to explain, our forefathers were great people. The politics around our forefather was horrible, which implicated our society in the current status that we are. So going back, we have to take a quick look at the historical timeline, and we can go as far as the Ottoman rule that started from 1516 all the way to 1918 and the burst of the World War I. So, as it's very well known, the Ottoman rule has been a massive empire, huge, and stretched geographically immensely. and it included our country. So we are talking about a rule that took place around 400 plus years. And this expansion geographically couldn't have happened without the Ottomans back then controlling the land's power in a corporate mindset and a business mindset, if I may say so. So they have affiliated during then with the tribes and the tribes' chieftains, the leaders of the tribes. And they have assigned these chieftains to control the tribes and to control the lands in return to pay taxes to the government, which will eventually be cash flow for the main Ottoman Empire. So what happened is that the taxes that's been collected, funny enough, approximately, and this is historical events, stretched exponentially all the way to 95% of the production that the farmers used to take. So they were left poorly with a mere 5%. Funny enough, history is almost repeating itself in 2021. The only difference that our current corrupted / incompetent government, I'm trying to be politically correct as much as possible. Our incompetent government dominated 100% of the hardships of people and money in starting 2019 all the way till now 2021 and almost 2022. So the political agenda of the Ottoman Empire created something that we call iqta'. And the iqta' is like a feudal system that forced the people to obey the laws and requirements of the Ottoman rule through the chieftains, forcing high taxes, which created ultimately huge fights and huge conflicts among the people themselves and people against the Ottoman rule itself. And funny enough, in 2019, almost history repeating itself, when they imposed an extra increase in tax over WhatsApp, which was a $6 back then, the people went down to the streets and revolted. Now, what does this have to do with food? Because definitely this has caused an economic collapse, and eventually we will be talking a little bit about food security and food insecurity in Lebanon. Jumping into the pace a little bit forward, this is the first phase that ended in 1918. So after 1918, obviously the Allies won the World War I because the Ottomans have allied with Germany. So the Allies had power of presence, war-winning results to control the area that is particularly labeled as the Fertile Crescent, which is definitely and forever it will be named Palestine, then Lebanon and Syria. So this is very important because the Brits has controlled Palestine, and Syria and Lebanon was under their direct French mandate. During both times and during both eras, I don't want to go into the historical details and the historical views because the pre-modern and the modern and postmodern history has lots of events that we can talk about, lots of fights. The creation of the iqta' is still continuing on up till the days that we live. They created, and starting from the Man family, the Hashahabs, the Saghirs, the Abillamas, and these are family names that had a power of wealth and manpower to control areas. Both sides did not succeed to create the agricultural-driven society despite the huge production during then, because Europe at a certain point in the mid 19th century have suffered from not pandemic illnesses, it's a pandemic, epidemic, if I may call it, and it affected, for example, the growth of the silk production, especially in Lyon, France. So it was an opportunity. And why am I highlighting this? Because this is exactly what Lebanon needs right now, an opportunity to export food in order to generate income. So back then, the epidemic of the silkworm, they had particular bacteria that was killing the silkworms over there. So it was an opportunity to Lebanon to massively export silk into Lyon, France in particular, and other parts of Europe. So what has this caused? This has caused some sort of good revenues and well-being, some sort of food security for people during this era in particular. And I'm not going to mention the 1918 famine that started to hit Lebanon. I'm going to discuss about it later. And this is all falls into the food security part. And this the silkworm production was located or basically based in Mount of Lebanon, a bit to the north towards Kisirwan, which was heavily production. If you go to the south, you will take a look at the tobacco and the cotton production, massively produced and massively exported. And back then, we were talking about challenged people, we were talking about poor people who had a huge percentage of their revenues taken from them, basically stolen, if I may say so. I want to be also remain politically correct. But there was still production, and I'm trying to portray here that there's always hope, because during these times, hope is always there should we decide as a society to move from a consumer mindset into a more productive mindset, which will always give us the means and tools to succeed and move forward towards the external market. So basically, after so you had so the outbreak of World War I in 1914 caused a famine in Lebanon. So why I wanted to insist to come back, because basically urban and the big cities were mostly affected. Why? Because the villages that were living around the cities were affected definitely, but were less had less troubles in their daily life process, because they were masters of the land. They knew how to approach agriculture, and they were in less threat. And during this closing the war, the Ottoman rule were like going left, right, and center. They forced blockades and confiscation of wheat, salt, rice, whatever you would name, main source of food things. And they have created a deforestation effect during that time. They were chopping trees left, right, and center, just to use it as a fuel and just to use it as a training camp so that they can survive the wars. So what happened is that during these times, it has shaped our future, right? So now on the verge of the 23rd century, 2023, after 100 and something year of our creation, we are now invited to rethink our agriculture. Definitely people of the trade who are specialized in agriculture, I will be totally agreeing that this needs the proper infrastructure and technology to start with in order to create a secure and correct path forward. However, with that said, no civilization that has preceded us started with a full technological package, nor they started with a full fundamental infrastructure that helped them. I think it is a work in progress, and that should move forward. So this is my first take on the overall view. Now, with the collapse of the financial system and the banking sectors starting 2019, followed by the pandemic, the COVID-19, and later on the 4th of August, the explosion of the 4th of August, underlining its impact. This has been considered the third biggest explosion in human history. The Lebanese deserve to take a chance, to take a breath, because it was devastating. We are talking about a huge explosion. We are talking about almost 200 plus casualties, 90% within 10 kilometer radius of businesses need help, and families lost their home, and they lost their friends and lives. So what do we do? I think the steps forward are to move down back to basics, to shift our mindset and mentality into the production mentality, and focus on it rather than consuming. If you take a look at the trade balance of Lebanon, importing in 2018, quite around $28 billion, and exporting worth of $2 billion, there's a big gap. This is a big sign that is telling you, guys, we have to move forward towards a more productive mindset. I think the thing that we can do also as exporting is really count on the talents of the new generation who are tech savvy, who can also export technology that is directly related to agriculture, and sell it to others, because you are exporting thoughts, you are exporting ideas, you are exporting technology. Nothing is 100% tangible, but the results of the ideas and the technology will be tangible on feeds in different parts of the world. I think there will always be a market for such things. This is my brief, and this is my introduction in general. I could go into details of what are the merchant mindsets that we live in, and how we approached our markets, but I would like to give and take between me and you, Joella. I'm going to mute my microphone so that I give you the chance to put less echo in the stream.
All right. Thank you so much, Riad. That was really informative and a really good overall introduction about the history and the current status of Lebanon at the moment. I did a little bit of research for our talk, and the numbers and statum was just massive. I read numbers that Lebanon imports mainly 80% of its goods. And then obviously with the economic crisis, which the World Bank says, I think it's the top 10 most severe crisis globally since the 19th century, which is also like a crazy statement. But personally, for me, what I always admire at you when I met you in Beirut, when I was there with Nouri visiting Ferdinand's, and you and Walid, is the special drive of you, but I also had the feeling like the city in itself of never giving up, and always being fighting, and always pursuing, and never letting everything can be a chance as well. And what I'm also was super impressed is how many different restaurants were there, and how many people are already linked to this farm to fork principle, which Europe is now also on the rise. But
we can continue maybe first how the explosion affected now the food situation and food sovereignty or food security in Lebanon, and how you, because I know you have a very positive champion mindset of trying to make everything into a chance still. So because numbers that I read was pretty devastating. That something like FAO is saying that 2.53 million people are in need of food security at the moment in Lebanon, and yeah, that 22% of the Lebanon's households are food insecure. And I think it's also a mix of how people are using agriculture, or how hard it is now with the imports to get food, and then also related to the inflation that you are facing, and all the other stuff like electricity, fuel imports. I think there's so many layers coming together, and I would like to hear your perspective on on the current situation and how food sustainability can work in this, or if it's a chance maybe to build up a more resilient food sustainability in the system, where you have the chance now to maybe recreate everything.
Okay, can you hear me now really, really loud? Okay. Now, on August 4th, on the 4th of August, to be considered one of the darkest days of the modern Lebanese history, there was a huge amount of ammonium nitrate located and stored at the port of Beirut. This is the evidence that we all know, that has exploded, and without going into the details of the explosions and the reasons of that, it resulted in 218 deaths so far, plus 7,000 plus injuries, at a cost of $15 to $17 billion of damage for the neighboring areas, an estimated of 300,000 individual that remained without a home. Despite the darkness of the matter, despite the depth of the wound that we are facing, the hope rose with the people itself. The very first 3 to 4 months, an incredible wave of volunteers from all over the country, united and under the umbrella of humanity, disregarding again the incompetent government that we have in Lebanon, that the important incompetent government that was, is, and currently being, so that I am a bit precise in regards to this matter. Every Lebanese gathered under the humanity umbrella, giving from the heart, helping people fix their doors, their windows, cleaning off the dust and the debris of the broken glasses, helping injured and whatnot. This scene needed to be lived in order to be understood. To understand this scene, you have to live it. Otherwise, it remains a fairy tale, a nice story that I probably am telling, but on the human side, you feel better when you see this collaboration between the people that gets us together. Why am I emphasizing on this point? If only we have one and only one hope, we have to get rid of the baggage that has been implied to us throughout the mandates and the rules that came into our lives as Lebanese, starting from the Ottoman all the way to the French mandate, our independence in 1943. So you were talking in 1943, that's like babies and kids trying to create a country. The only good phase was the Fuad Shahab phase that had serious and correct reforms back then. And afterwards, the geopolitical fights all around us, surrounding us. I call Lebanon a victim of geography because we are unlucky having neighbors left, right, and center. The best neighbor is the sea that we have. So basically, now we're talking about this. Everybody moved their struggles and their fights into the theater of Lebanon that caused the 1975 war all the way stretching to 1990. So during this also there was no reforms, it was chaos, you know. And post 1990, you had the new agreement, the new Taif agreement with the presence of Hariri, created some sort of a move economically. However, there was no reason for the farmer coming from Akkad or from Bekaa or from Mount of Lebanon, because pretty much like all the mandates and the rules have failed to create and enforce the agricultural move. And I'm all about the agricultural move today because it is our only hope. I don't see any other hope in my personal and humble opinion. I can be proven wrong definitely because, you know, I mean, there are many options, but this is what I'm focusing on. So they have failed to drive the economy towards an agricultural state, and we can have any other forms of income for the Lebanese economy. The post 1990s also failed in creating attractions for the farmers, and dominated the economy by a service-based economy based on the banking system and based on tourism. So the farmer was more happy to travel internally, and this is what we call the internal migration that is also repeated throughout the timeline of history. Internal migration from the satellite villages into the urban cities in order to be able to feed his family. And then he left his land, left his trade and traditions, and the land now needs to be, you know, to be fixed and to be properly treated in order to get it back to a starting point where you can start having a new launch. So what do we do now? I mean, the international community who is wanting to help has to help on the level of the individuals, not helping on the level of the government, because it is a proven failed approach. However, also not however, also why did I describe about the iqta in the beginning? It's because formerly it was the case happening there. Now it is the same thing, but in a different dress. Because I wouldn't tell you also as an international community to come and support Lebanon, and I'm strictly emphasizing not financially, is don't come to the governorate, don't come to the municipality, because they have let the stray dogs control the municipality, and actually people who are in the municipality positions or governorate are actually related to the current oligarch and current mafia that is controlling the country. So this is why I'm emphasizing on the individual role, and everybody in Lebanon. We're talking about reaching a level of 40% poverty rate with a 27% ratio. They have to shorten their meal rations into 1 meal per day. The individual is ready now to embrace any support and help when it comes to training, when it comes to guidance, when it comes to support by giving them, for example, a cold press olive press. You know, help them to achieve cultivation on that level in order to create a product and create labs through cooperatives. And I'm sure cooperatives exist in Lebanon, but you have to activate it. You have to make it more dynamic, give them more power through the people and from the people to create labs, so that when you produce, for example, pomegranate molasses, it's produced correctly, and it's being it has a decent shelf life, and it is put in a good branding and good packaging, so that when you export it, let's say to Europe, the hands of the user will approach the bottle of a pomegranate molasses, for example, and will approach this bottle and take it and buy it, because what you are about to experience as a product from Lebanon is, in fact, artisanal. It is not made on mass production. Remember, all the population in Lebanon would count 4.5 million. So we might be a volume of a street in Cairo, for example, or a small area in Saudi Arabia, or China. We would be a building in China, you know, as a population. So
Yeah.
So with that said, artisanal production also in Lebanon is a huge added value, because our way of approaching things is really fascinating. And our forefathers, when I started my conversation, is that the problem is not in our forefathers, it's in the political system that was governed back then. Is that if you approach one of our forefathers, or one of our grandparents, and say, listen, you have a small farm, let's increase the production. His answer would be, what? So that I make money and then retire to have a farm? I already have a farm. They already saw the devils of the capitalism back then. They were very happy with an item or two in the fridge. They were happy. They were very happy to slaughter one prey through the year and use it all. And this is respect to the raw materials they had. I mean, for what it takes, if there were cell phones back then, they would even use their sounds as a ringtone. They would use the feet, the head, the skin. Everything was used in the animal. Even the bones, they would use it as tools to use it, because of necessity. And they understood what necessity is all about. And this is the beautiful part and the beautiful side of the rural areas in Lebanon. And to me, as a person, because I come from this area, and it's very well known that Lebanese people are generally hospitable, and they are loving people, and they are not cheap, you know. So when you go and they tell you, listen, hey, take this and have this, and this is coming from the richness of the nature. It's coming from the richness of the land. The land actually taught the people that, listen, look, I give you a lot, you know. So it reflected back on their personality, on their persona and their character. They became very similar or lookalikes, like the land that they're working with. Yeah,
I think that's a really nice point, and a good link to your own experience and to your own last 2 years, I guess, from Ferdinand's to Meats and Bread, which got destroyed in the explosion, and then open up Ammoula, where you focused, I'm not sure out of necessity or also because it was something that you wanted to bring forward on Lebanese cuisine and local ingredients and products, and also with I read you also have a own small farm where you sourcing products then from. So also that created something, something beautiful out of a necessity, but created something which is inherently food sustainability. I don't know if you want to elaborate on your experience with Ammoula.
Absolutely. But I was unmuting so that I create less echoes for the voices. Now, it all happened when we were dealing on a day-to-day operations in our businesses. So we reached a stage where the inflation has hit us very hard, and our purchase power from the Lebanese lira is almost buying us nothing. And this is exactly what's affecting everyone. So the same piece of meat that I used to buy, for example, per kilogram for 45,000 Lebanese lira is nowadays 600,000 Lebanese lira per same kilogram. This is 400 plus inflation rate, you know, percentage.
That's crazy.
It is indeed crazy. And mind you that we deal only with our currency, especially that after the government removed the peg on the dollar, everybody is trying to hold onto their dollar bills, and everyone is circulating the Lebanese lira. So we are not getting paid in USDs, we are getting paid in Lebanese lira, and this is how it should have been day one. So then we collect the money in order to go buy, and then in order to buy, you have to add more money that does not exist in your pocket, did not come from your business, in order to buy the same amount to be able to sell it. So we were facing a dead end. So we had to make a decision. And if not now, then when? We looked into the in-house side of Lebanon. We said, no matter what, we cannot survive by wanting to buy imported goods. And mind you, as I told you, you've seen the trade balance ratio. Lebanon relies heavily on importing. So if you want your own camembert or your brie or cheese, might as well learn how to do it. You will never reach the experience of this family and trade that the French had, because they've been doing it for hundreds of years, but you can come damn close to it and learn how to do a Lebanese influenced product. You can do the same thing with anything that you wanted to put on the table of your clients and customers in order to enjoy the food in a nice way as a last breather during all this economic collapse. So we made this shift. We decided to go locally, and you'll be fascinated by how similar, there is lots of similarities throughout cultures, that the methods of preservation, the methods of pickling, the methods of canning are somewhat very similar throughout the world, but the technical part of it differs. So this is why you can make your own anchovies in Lebanon. However, it will be a little bit different, but you will have an end product, and you can build experience doing it. And at the end of the day, you can have a decent product in years to come. And you take this notion and you teach it to others, so that if somebody wants to try to do and venture into this, they can have the know-how in order to create these items. And this is so beautiful, because when you see women in cooperatives right now, everyone has their own recipe of doing producing their own tomato paste, their own pickling and jarring. It's surreal, and it all happens with good energy. I mean, a mother of a friend of mine is like, hey, listen, I need to visit you because you're traveling. It's like, no, this is a pomegranate season. This is tomato season. To her, it's paramount. So they are also emotionally attached. There's something like this you cannot see unseen magic between precisely mostly women who are doing the mune thing that we call the pickling and jarring and whatnot, as if she wants to feed one of her children throughout each and every jar she's trying to sell. And this is what I'm trying to portray, that this artisanal product only needs to have a nice shape, a nice branding, so that when you put it on the shelf of a supermarket outside Lebanon, it will make sense. And then the hand will approach this product, and thus will create a good business as a result of the crisis that we are facing in Lebanon.
I totally agree. This is such a great storytelling. I mean, what more would you want? So maybe looking in the future, in your situation right now, what do you think? Where is your journey in the maybe just next year, to not push it too forward, because nobody could know what's happening soon. Where do you see your future as a chef working in the food world? Where do you think it's gonna go, or do you think you have to be a bit more patient until you can start off again, or you're focusing now on Ferdinand's and push Ferdinand's forward?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. I think, Riad, we can hear you fine. I think it's working.
Okay, excellent. I'm double checking whether you can hear me.
Cool.
Now, pretty much like a considerable amount of people like me, we are rooted in our countries. Despite our travels, despite our successes outside, I think we should all learn to be successful individuals within our society, rather being successful individual when we travel abroad. So we are basically more successful when we travel abroad. So we have to learn the other way around, in my opinion. We are rooted to our countries. No matter what, people will come back to Lebanon at least to visit it, despite the gray and the dark image that we are currently facing and seeing in the country. Personally, I would forever remain in my country, but there's no harm to explore different options outside Lebanon, not leaving my country for good, but the experience has taught us to be careful this time. We have made sacrifices a lot that we are unable to afford to do more sacrifices. We need insurance cards outside our country until we are able to beat the current political volume that there is in Lebanon. And I think hopefully it's going to be soon. We have a big fight coming in the new elections in March, but God knows what's going to happen between now and then.
Yeah, but I must say, when I was in Beirut visiting you, it's such a dynamic and such a positive city. Despite everything, everybody has such a good spirit and is so creative and thriving forward. I think I would thank you now, and because I saw some people, and I'm sure they wanted to ask you some questions. Thank you so much for this talk, Riad. I know we had a bit of a bumpy technology road, but
it's okay.
But I think we made it through.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so happy I was able to express myself as I wanted, and I hope I portrayed a decent image of our country. At the end of the day, people in general and genuinely are good. So we are definitely part of this good as Lebanese people.
No, I'm sure, yeah. Yeah, and I can't wait to visit you again.
Please do so.
Yeah, I can't wait.